All right, all right. Welcome everybody to the Daily BLP. It's been a few weeks, everybody. I've been on, I don't know if you want to call it sabbatical, hiatus. Let's just say anything but vacation. We'll talk a little bit about that today, but I'm really happy to be back. You might notice the digs are a little bit different today. We've moved the studio to my home office for a few weeks until we move our actual business office and kind of set up a new permanent studio. So we'll be doing this from this location for a while. We'll see how it goes. And we'll just have a little bit of fun with it. So got a good show in store for you today. Our normal guests are with us. We've got Declan in the chair producing. We've got a new guest on our team to introduce today. But let's just go around the horn real quick. Matt, calling in from Colorado. Bud, how you been doing?
Doing good, Brian. Doing good. Great to see you, and happy to be here, my friend.
Awesome. Happy to have you here as well. Manish from the other side of the world, my friend. How have you been?
Hey Brian, I'm doing good. I am happy to see you back. It's been for me. I was thinking it's been a decade and we
It
haven't
feels like a
speak
long
about it.
time. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it feels so long.
It does. Sending a virtual hug your way, man. And then we've also got a new member of our team that's just started recently. He's cutting his teeth on the BLP today. Want to welcome Harshit Yadav. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good, sir. Hello. How are
Good.
you?
Good. So everybody, a warm welcome to Harshit. He is the newest member of our digital marketing team over in our India office. Can't wait to see his skills put on display, not only helping out with this show and production, but all kinds of content creation on the video and visual side. So you'll be seeing his work to come. All right, well, everybody, let's get rolling into the show today. We've got a couple things to cover. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how our day was yesterday in the business, and then we'll move on to talking a little bit about, some stuff that's current and I'm sure near and dear to everybody's heart at least in this country and possibly in the world. I don't know how everybody does taxes in their countries. But taxes and finances have been on the top of everybody's mind, both personally and professionally, the last few months. And we just had tax day come and go recently. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what it looks like to kind of be ready and not just hope and pray and cross your fingers that everything's going to be okay. After that, we're going to cover a little bit of some sports stuff going on. It's a crazy time right now in sports because we've got the NFL draft coming up in a few days here in our backyard in Wisconsin. We've also got the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. We just had the Masters recently. What else is going on? I think the Boston Marathon was just yesterday. So a lot of stuff going on in the athletic and sports world. We won't be able to cover it all, but we'll see what we can do in the limited time that we have today. All right, well, let's roll right into it. So Love to hear your guys' thoughts on this as I kind of explain this story. So yesterday was my first day back into the office for about a half a day. And so my daughter, she had a orthodontist appointment early in the morning. So we jumped in the truck, headed down, took care of that, and then headed over to our office. And I had an appointment on the books that was scheduled I think a week or so back, maybe a couple weeks now. Man, the time just flew. By our buddy Bob Gillespie over at Arsenal Business Growth. And this was with a local, we're located in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. If you don't know where that is, check it out on the map, right on the lake shore, about an hour north of the big city of Milwaukee. But anyway, a local company in Sheboygan. I was really excited. It's a construction company. Love it when we get opportunities real close to home. And it was a Zoom meeting, which that was a little bit of a bummer, but he did that on purpose, I think, because I was just coming back and he wasn't sure where I was going to be schedule-wise. Because I could have probably rode a bicycle over to this office and been there, but it wasn't a Zoom. Sorry, it was a Teams meeting. And saw it on the calendar, got ready for it. I actually showed up for the meeting a half an hour early because I thought it was at 10 instead of 10:30, and I backed out, came back in about 10 minutes prior to the meeting. Joined, hey, waiting for, the host to let you in. I figured, well, Bob's scheduled. He's probably the host. And 10:30 comes and goes. Nobody's let me in. So about 10:34, I'm like, hey, I should probably check in with Bob. Send him an email. Hey, Bob, what's going on? Are you hosting? You letting everybody in? I don't know what's up. So he emailed back right away. He's like, you should be the host. Is nobody there? I'm like, well, I'm not the host. It's telling me that the host needs to let me in. So, a little bit of radio silence for a bit. And then about 5 minutes or later, I got a call from his supervisor, Joe, great guy. Hey, not sure what's going on, Brian. What is it showing on your screen? I told him what was it showing on my screen. It was showing the same thing on theirs. Wouldn't let them into the meeting as the organizer. Wouldn't let me into the meeting as anything. So we're assuming it wouldn't let the prospect into the meeting either. So he's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm really sorry. This shouldn't be happening. I apologize. And so we agreed the best course of action was to kind of pick up the phone and call the client, see what they were seeing. So I got off the phone with them, called the client, found out they were seeing the same that we were. There was no way for anybody to get into this Teams meeting, and nobody knew how to fix it. By this time, it was already 15 minutes down the road, and he didn't have time for a conversation at this point. And so he didn't sound super excited either. You can tell in someone's voice when they're not really excited that their time was just wasted. But I apologized. I took the blame for it. Hey, I'm not sure what happened. It's our fault. We'll get it right. Are you willing to? Because this is really just an introduction meeting. It wasn't a thing where they had this super big need. Maybe they had something that wasn't, shared with Bob on the initial cold call. But either way, it was an introduction meeting. And, first impression, we didn't look so great handling the technology from a tech company, right? So I'm like, hey, really sorry. Not sure what happened. Can we reschedule? What's a good day and time? He's like, well, can't do today. Can't do tomorrow. Maybe I can do Thursday. I'm like, okay, I'll shoot you over an invite for Thursday. Hopefully that works. He didn't make me any promises. So it's a soft reschedule for Thursday. We'll see. My gut tells me it's not a great thing, but we'll see. I could be wrong. So what I'll do is Wednesday is I'll have Jamie follow up and just make sure that everything's good with him. It's good to go. We're going to do it on Zoom this time. And what I'm doing now is until they find out what's going on with Teams, I'm just sharing my Zoom scheduler link, which is kind of like a Calendly thing where someone can click on it, see my schedule, pick their time. So I'm just giving that to Bob, and Bob can use that to see open times to book with people. So hopefully that works better than the latter. So what do you guys think? Matt, have you ever had those kind of situations happen to you where, you're there early and on time and they're expecting to meet with you, but wires get crossed and it kind of makes you look bad?
I can't, not an exact example, but I've definitely had case scenarios where my camera wouldn't work or my audio wouldn't work or something. I've definitely had instances with technology like that. And yeah, it's frustrating, especially when it's like you're trying everything and you did everything you could and it's just technology. But yeah, sometimes technology just doesn't seem to want to work with us, unfortunately. It's sometimes.
Yeah. Have you ever had it to where it's kind of negatively impacted that first impression?
Yeah, I think so, because especially with what I do, with what you do, I think a lot of what we do in business is using technology and using all these sorts of things. And I think there have been instances where I've come on and the technology hasn't been there. And I think, in my opinion, I mean, I know how I would look at it if I was looking at hiring a vendor and they were having technology issues. In the back of my mind, I'd be like, okay, well, what issues are they going to have with me if I start working with them? So that's what I think, especially in our industry, it's difficult because it's almost kind of like a test when we get on these calls. How smoothly is it going to run? Because that's a reflection of like, okay, how is this going to operate if I hire them? So obviously that isn't the case here. This is just a one-off tech instance and that happens, but it's unfortunate because that's all that the prospect sees. That's the first thing they see. So yeah, definitely. I definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it's unfortunate, and but I think the right angle is to, it could be something like this. It could be, hey, this is the same. I think it falls into the same category as, hey, you're running late for a meeting, or something comes up, or you know what I mean, and it's never comfortable for you, and it's not a good impression on the prospect. But what I've learned over the years, the best thing to do is like swallow your pride and just, take the hit. Just be willing to say, hey, even and I teach this, and Declan knows this. He's sitting right here. I teach this to my kids. I preach it to friends and coworkers and people who work with me, is even if it's not your fault, the situation going negatively, find a way to make it your fault and own it. I learned a few years ago that I say a few like it was 2. It's probably 10 years ago now. The time goes by so fast. But that in any situation, if you place the blame on somebody else for, the result not being what you or everybody wants, then you lose all control to do anything about that situation. But if you're willing, even if it's not your fault, to take on the burden and the fault and make it your fault in some way, even if it's 3 levels in, and you have now gained control to do something about it. So, and as long as you're willing to take the hit, now, I might look bad in the moment, but now I control. I have the ball's in my hands to score the next point. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because if you pass the buck, and it's your fault. Hey, if you wouldn't have screwed this up, Bob and Joe over at Arsenal, if you guys would have got the stupid thing right, this wouldn't have happened. Nope. That may be true. Maybe something's going on with their team's account. Maybe it's all their fault. But it's in this situation, I could have done a better job because I don't think we'd ever done a Teams meeting. I think we had only really done like phone calls and in-person meetings. I could have done a better job of saying, hey, let's jump on a call and make sure this is going to work. Or, hey, besides just crossing my fingers and thinking it was going to work. You know what I mean? So I can make that about me, and that way I can make sure it never happens again. So that's my little preachy moment for that situation. But all's not lost, Otherwise, we did have another meeting that was booked later in the day with a person that's been working with my business partner Manny on some immigration stuff. She was interested in our digital marketing service, and I talked to her a few weeks back. She wanted to rebook, so we rebooked it, and she didn't show. It was funny. I was talking to Manny, and Manny was like, "I didn't think she was going to show anyway." But those are always fun. And I don't know this person. She could be a great person, great business person, but sometimes I flip-flop between my perspective on how to handle something like that. Like, and I try not to be in a chasing role to begin with when it comes to sales and stuff, but if especially with this person, because I talked to her, if I get on the phone with somebody and we agree mutually to do a meeting, my expectation is we're going to respect each other's time and do everything we can to be in that meeting as close to on time as possible and hold the meeting. Even if you get into it and say, hey, my mind's kind of changed, I'm not into it anymore, I'm not interested, right? Okay, fair enough. But to just like, I'm not going to show is super disrespectful. You know what I mean? And
100%.
And I, sometimes my perspective is, wow, I really need this business. I'm going to bend over backwards, find this person's phone number, look them up on the Yellow Pages. For everybody who doesn't know what that is, that's the book that used to have Yellow Pages where you could get people's phone numbers. But I'm going to find out, and I'm going to get them and try to get into this meeting because I desperately need their business. That's one perspective. The other perspective is like, I may need this business, but at the same time, what kind of business partnership are we going to have if this is the way it starts? Is it always going to be someone's not going to respect the time? Is it always going to be that someone's not going to, think that this is a mutual thing that we got to participate in,
Definitely.
So
one thing a mentor told me a while ago when I was kind of first starting out in the sales arena is, especially when you're bringing on clients and you're a young man right out of college and your clients are, these executives and things of that nature, is he told me, he's like, hey, don't be a yes man. Like when you have that client and they're asking, hey, do this, do that, like don't always be a yes man. You want to be that person that's like bending over back and things like that. But you start doing that right away. You start bending over back. You start chasing, like you said. Yeah, obviously you want to serve your clients, go the extra mile, do what you can. But at a certain point, you have to understand, although they're your client, it's like respect goes both ways. If we say a meeting, I could adjust certain things and that meeting doesn't come. So that's what a mentor told me a while ago is, when you have those clients and things like that, don't always be a yes man, like set, levels and things of that nature. And that's one thing I felt is, setting those expectations on both ends, because like you said, time is just so important. You have to set those expectations.
Yeah. And, one way I've heard it explained is have posture. You know what I mean? Like, don't be a jerk. Don't be disrespectful, to somebody because, say somebody stood you okay. That doesn't give me the right to yell at somebody or, whatever. But have some posture. Be willing to stand up and say, hey, I know something might have come up. And I've been the person caused on the other side of this before. And I try not to do that. And I've over the years, I've tried to get better, right? And I, again, it's another thing to own up to. But have some posture and just be like, hey, I'd really appreciate it if we don't let this happen again. What can we work out to make sure that we know what's going on if something needs to change? You know what I mean? But anyway, I think that was something that happening yesterday just kind of reminded me of, this a good little teachable moment to remember myself and for the audience is like when you're in business or as a professional, don't be a yes person. I love that you brought that up. You don't always have to be saying no. You don't always have to be saying yes. Have some posture, have a spine, without being a jerk. So cool.
Yep,
All right. Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with business finance, and not finance to a degree of like we're going to talk P's and Q's and ones and zeros and stuff, but it was tax time, right? So, man, how does tax time make you feel, Matt, every year being a business owner?
It brings out my procrastination.
Man.
I'm really good at not procrastinating, but when it comes to tax season, I'm the guy that does it the Monday before or finalizes it. We're good about keeping track of it all year, but you don't love to see that amount come out of your bank account. That's where my mind is at during tax season. But yeah, it's nothing crazy. To me, it honestly reminds me of all the like softwares and stuff I'm still paying for that we really don't need. It honestly gives me an opportunity to be like, okay, we're paying for this, and this. Do we really need this one? So that's what it really brings out for me is when we're going through all our expenses and softwares and everything we're paying for is like, it is an opportunity to be like, okay, do we really need this software if we have this one? So that's where it really is at for me when I'm doing it.
Hey, Manish, what's tax? Is it like is this similar time of year in India, tax season for you guys?
Yeah, so this is very similar time in India. So our tax season is from March and April. We have to file everything, TDS and everything for the business. And we have to file a final taxation in July. So end of the July, like 31st of the July. And in India, I think we have already a discussion on a different episode about the tax. So in India, the scenario is very different. Like for employees, if an employee has a package of 30 LPA in INR in Indian currency, then might be his tax would be somewhere 8 lakh INR in Indian rupees, right?
Okay.
And if a businessman is doing a business and he's making 30 lakh per annum, so his tax would be somewhere around 1.5 lakh INR. So it's always good for the businessman in India when it comes to comparing the tax. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's obviously as being I've got personal taxes that I have to file for my wife and I and family, and I've got business taxes that I have to file for my business. And last year was painful. Matt, Manish, Harshit, it was painful for me because it was the previous year I had made more than I expected because business was good. And I didn't do a good job of preparing for how much taxes I was going to have to pay in 2024 based on 2023's income. And what we had done previously is we had been using an accountant that my wife's dad used forever. Is actually that guy's son because that guy retired years ago. So we had been using this other person, same person my father-in-law used because he had some businesses, owned some properties, owned like a laundromat and a couple buildings that had tenants and stuff. And that was that was, how their family had income, their whole life. Long since sold all that stuff. But, when we were young, we didn't know how to do our own taxes. We tried like doing TurboTax and all that stuff. And we would, we'd go to H&R Block at a Walmart a long time ago. And it was just too unpredictable and too crazy. So he was like, just use our guy. So we used our guy, and it cost us like a couple $100 every year to get our tax prepped. And he would do it. And when we opened the business in 2016, all the way through, well, it would have been through 2024, I had just done self-employment. I had just filed as self-employed. So I didn't have my personal business as an LLC or anything like that up until that point. And it was fine 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, all the way through 2023, because we had, as you know, in business, you typically take a loss for quite a few years. And your personal, what you pay yourself is a part of your business expense. So obviously, as someone working in your business, you can make money and, survive, but your business with expenses and, you being an expense as your own employee and other things that you use to run your company, typically, you've got between 1 to 5 years when the government's you're filing taxes to kind of get things to a place where you're either break even or starting to get ahead. Once you get ahead, you start to pay, right? Matt, you know this. And it took a number of years. But when I got to the point where my personal business was making money, the best I had done was 2023. So when I filed those taxes in 2024, I was not ready for how much I was about to pay Uncle Sam. And I had to, it's not like we didn't have money in the bank and stuff like that. Just I didn't want to take all that money out of the bank and give it to the government. We basically had to empty everything and just give it to the government. And that was not fun. So I'm like, okay, I've been, as you said, Matt, procrastinating on some things over the years. And I had always seen videos and read and knew in the back of my mind that I needed to be doing things a little bit different and hire somebody that was a little more involved. Because the guy that we were working with was very passive. He'd send us an envelope every year. We'd fill it out. I'd say Jen would do it, and she would spend 16, 20 hours probably going through all of our past year's receipts and bank statements and just organizing everything. And we'd always ask ourselves, why are we paying somebody to do this? And all we're paying the person to do was take the stuff that we spent all the hard work preparing, and then they put it on the forms because they know how to fill out the government forms, and they send it in, right? And what we learned is that wasn't going to be enough anymore, especially since we were starting to make money. So, I went online. I'm like, okay, if I was going to find an accountant that I can trust, what would be some of their credentials? And I know one of the things, like Dave Ramsey, he's kind of a Christian finance guy, and I like his approach to things. And I'm like, okay, look up Ramsey. And so Ramsey's got a program where accountants and bookkeepers can kind of get accredited with that organization by passing certain tests and blah, blah, blah. So I found a Ramsey partner accountant up in the Green Bay area. So I contacted him, sat down with him. He's like, yep, I'll take you on. So he started giving me good advice on how to organize my business. He's like, first of all, we got to turn you into an LLC. No more of this self-employment stuff, because self-employed are the highest tax. Okay. So thank you, sir. May I have another? And he's like, okay, let's look at some things. He's like, okay, from here, what we're going to do is you're going to start running your business as an S Corp. And after you get your LLC status, we're going to apply for S Corp status. So we did that over the past year, and it has worked out much better. So having an LLC, forming an S Corp, I'm an employee of my S Corp, and so my S Corp is taking out money from itself as a portion of payroll taxes. So a portion of what I pay myself goes to the government, every month. And so my accountant and his team, they do that. They pull the money paid to the state, pay federal every month, pay the state, pay federal every month, pay state, pay federal. So the half of that comes out of my paycheck, half of that comes out of the company. And what that has done is at the end of the year here, My business is all paid in full in tax. And personally, I've overpaid in tax and I get a refund, just as I used to when I was an employee.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
How, if you don't mind, and we could cut this out, is the Ramsey, that advisor, is that around the same pricing as that tax guy? Was it a little more
So I didn't
expensive?
have,
Because
I didn't, so yeah, I definitely pay my new tax people more, but they do more,
okay,
right? So
yeah, and they save you more. Okay.
yeah, so I paid them for tax prep for my business as an S corp, which has a certain cost, and then I pay them tax prep for my personal, which is less,
Okay.
right? And then I pay them around the year, which it's not very much. So yeah, every month, so they have access to my business bank account every month. They pull out what needs to be paid to state, and they pull out what needs to be paid to federal, and boom, it's there, it's
Okay.
done, and
I like that a lot.
yeah. So yeah, I pay a lot more than I only used to pay the former guy maybe 200, between 200 and 300, depending on how complicated as my business was growing,
Right.
it was getting more complicated. Most that we ever paid the person was maybe 300. Now I'm probably spending $2,000 a year, but it's worth it. It's worth it to go from, I'm not kidding, taxes costing me 40 grand to getting a return is a big deal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Because that's where I found myself. Is I didn't do my quarterly taxes properly, and I had to pay some fees for punishment of that. And
yeah,
so
that's not fun
I was
either.
just yeah, that's not fun. So I was just like, okay, this year, because I'm kind of in the growth phase now where I'm like, okay, I need to kind of get a better, we do good on it. We have people and we have some help to do it. But, like you were saying, there's definitely better ways to do it, smarter ways to do it. And so this Ramsey thing, honestly, piqued my interest of maybe something we should do over here.
Yeah, so Dave Ramsey he's a really popular guy who's been doing, he's a Christian guy. His and I don't follow him as far as all of his. I need to do better because he's got some really good advice as far as personal finance. But so his thing is zero debt, right? But the thing about it is, he's got kind of some principles and rules that he follows that he'll never advise or tell anybody to do anything that goes against legal or moral, ethical type of stuff. And that was one of the things I wanted to make sure if I found somebody in the business world that was their approach too. Because, one thing about tax preparation is you could have all the greatest intention as a business person in the world, but if you partner up with somebody to take care of your money and they don't have that type of moral standing or character, you could get in a lot of trouble. You could lose a lot of money, but you could because everything they do, you're responsible for. Like you got to sign off on the thing. If they screw something up, it's not their fault. It's your fault.
Yep.
So it's interesting though. In the past, right at the end of the year, so the company that I had partnered with, they sold to another local company, which I think is turning out to be a good company. So far, so good. I haven't had a chance to go sit down and meet with the new owner or anything, but. I'm going to try to make time to do that here in the next couple months. They don't have time to do that right now with tax season, but maybe in the summertime. He seems to be very organized. He's using all the same stuff. It's kind of cool. I can pick up the phone and call the folks that are working on my stuff, but they use this app called Liscio, Liscio, to communicate with me. So it's on my phone. I can get it on my computer. So they'll send me a message. Hey, Brian, can you send me this paperwork? Or, hey, can you do this? Or, I'll get updates on Liscio when with the receipt of the payment they made to the government. So I always know it's getting done, that kind of stuff. So that was a good thing. The bad thing that I didn't do very well this last year, I had the intentions to, and I got some software to help me do it. It's just creating the habit to do it, is I didn't do a good job of tracking and categorizing my expenses annually. I was both personally and, business-wise, I was too passive. I tried
That's where ChatGPT came in for me.
Oh yeah, how so?
So I would we'd take our business credit card, essentially. I'd put it, we did some organizing in our spreadsheets and things like that,
Yeah.
tech stack, finance stack, things like that. And then you say it's like, we have, FreshBooks, there's our Apple fees, there's our Riverside fees, yada, yada. That's in your tech stack, right?
Yep.
And so you would copy that whole tech stack, you'd paste it in a chat GPT and say, okay, add up all the Riverside expenses, add up all this, and it would organize and categorize it all for you. So I utilize ChatGPT a little bit. Like you have to do some organizing on your end,
Yeah.
but that was really, really helpful for me instead of, because I'm somewhat good in Excel, but as far as there are way to do formulas like, hey, if this equals Apple, add this. Like I understand that, but for me, not an Excel master, just throwing that into ChatGPT, say, hey, add up all the Apple, add up all the Riverside. That was really powerful for us this year.
Cool. I bought this app called Simply Wise. Put it on my phone. I can get access on my computer too, but where I can scan receipts, and then it'll read the receipts and put kind of the info. This is the store it was from. It'll try to guess using AI. It gets better at it as it goes along. And I was really good for the first month or two I got gas. I'm gonna scan the receipt, put it as business gas. Boom, it's there. And I connected our Amazon account. I didn't connect my bank accounts right away, and I gave the app to my wife, so when she was buying things, she could categorize it. But I didn't look into how to properly use it, and I wasn't religious about it. And came to the end of the year, and a lot of stuff was missing, so I had to spend a week, a couple hours every day, catching things up. But this year, on a daily basis, what I'm trying to do is at the end of the day, I'm trying to spend less. So I put the kibosh. I put we're on a spending freeze in the house. We're not broke, but I need to not be so passive. I'm not just going to buy things flippantly, whether it's for the business or personally, because we've got money. It's crazy how Amazon and Walmart, all this remote buying makes buying so easy and addictive that you just find yourself packages are showing up left and right, and nope, we're going old school. We're buying groceries in person now. Minimizing the deliveries because it just makes it too easy to spend money, and it's silly. So anyway, probably spent a little more time on this, but this is a big deal. Whether you're working for somebody else or working for yourself, not being passive with the money you make and the money you spend is going to be key, in your day-to-day life. And when tax season comes around, if you've been passive, you're going to find out, and things get painful. Either you've got the money to
feel it.
Yeah. But we try to do a lot better about that. Maybe what we'll do too is maybe I know it's not always the most fun thing to talk about, but I think it's important enough to bring up. We'll find a fun way to do, maybe check in once a month and see how everybody's doing with their finances. Another thing this year is I want to, get on top of things, figure out, at the end of the month where all the money is, what's left, and start talking about new ways to spend our money in ways that make us more money, as opposed to just buy us more things. So, anyway, let's move on. I want to try to get sports into the show a little bit more, because I think, as I've been thinking over these last couple of weeks, haven't got a chance to watch much sports, but I've been thinking, it's baseball season, so about to start coaching again. My son, Deck's telling me the time's short. We're probably over time, so we'll try to go through this quick. About to start coaching baseball again. My daughter's really into volleyball and basketball, so she just finished a volleyball camp that was, every Sunday for a month and a half, and she wants to do some basketball camps. And it just got me thinking about how similar sports. It's playoff season for basketball and hockey, and the draft's coming up. How sports are so analogous to life and business. You know what I mean? Your approach. I know cricket season's in full swing now. I was just talking with Manny yesterday, guys. Manish and Harshit. Harshit, are you a cricket guy?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. I know cricket season is in effect, so we'll be hitting cricket as matches start really getting super competitive. But there's so much about sports that's analogous to life and analogous to business, right? When you're building a team, Manish, you've been building a team for over a year now. You know that when you're building a team, you got to make decisions. Do you try to grab a person for your team that's a veteran, that might be asking for a little bit more pay, but they bring a lot to the table? You're not going to have to train them much, but they might be bringing baggage, right, that might not fit in well with the team that you've already got? Or are you going to bring in somebody under your team that might be a little fresh or a little green or wet behind the ears, but they're smart, they're hungry, they want to learn, they bring a skill set to the table that the team doesn't have that you can really train with the culture and bring along and make your team stronger. And you see this in all sports. So if we're talking NFL draft, like right now, in Green Bay, right up the road, it's going to be crazy here starting probably Tuesday and Wednesday. People are going to, even today, I haven't been outside to see what traffic's like on the highway, but hundreds of thousands of people are going to descend on a town that only has room for about 100,000 people to begin with. And, they're going to go to Lambeau Field, which holds, thousands upon thousands of people. And, multi-billion-dollar NFL franchises are going to spend a lot of money on people that have only really showed their talent and their experience at an amateur level, very high amateur level, but you're taking a big chance, right? Manish, what are some of your what are some of the things that what would you say your biggest thing is that you look for when you're trying to draft somebody new onto your marketing team?
So, brand, basically, I look for the mindset whenever I hire a people in my team. So, I always try to get the people who have some hunger of, to learning something new and explore something new, because I have seen in last 3 years drastic change in the marketing, sales, and everything. Because earlier we used to say marketing is a process, it takes time, marketing is a process, it takes time. But what I believe in this current era, marketing is a process with technology. So what I believe now, if we follow the process, but if we are outdated with the technology, we don't know how to integrate technology in the marketing and sales, maybe our businesses would be in trouble after some phases. So I always look into when I hire someone, a person should be the very well versed with the tech savvy. A person should know the technology. Either he's working in the marketing or he is working in the creative field, but he should know the technology. His mindset should be open for learning the new things, new technology. So that's one thing I'm looking for whenever I hire, a new resource, new employee in my team. So I look one thing.
Okay.
That's most important thing in my hiring process.
Mindset. I love it. I love it. Matt, what have you got? What do you look for when you're looking to partner with somebody new in your business?
Yeah, I definitely say mindset. I think a really big thing for me too, one of our core values here is transparency. So kind of to your point earlier, if you screw up or something, taking accountability, but also problem solving. So obviously I want to be there to help and I want to be there to guide you. But what I really love is when people I ask someone to do something and they're like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out for you.
Yeah.
And that drive to no matter what, figure it out. And then last piece is I'd say attention to detail. Especially with what we do, editing and things like that, having a really, keen eye for attention to detail, especially for things that I do, I can send it off, be like, hey, look at this, find something I haven't. But definitely I'd say that mindset and transparency is really important to me, just because, when we're bringing someone on, they're reflecting, our, Pivot Studios values. So really want to ensure that they're kind of upholding that as well.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with both of those things. Mindset is huge. Tenacity is one of those things I think you're getting at too, is like not just going to give up if things don't work out. And another thing that I like, I look at is someone who I think it's kind of a mixing of that mindset, and we even get a chance to talk about this, but the mindset and the tenacity is just someone who's just going to show up, so no matter what, whether things are going good, whether things are going bad. Someone who's going to, always be willing to show up and get to work, right? I think having a hunger to learn and get better, a positive mindset, positive mental attitude is huge. Being able to, to take a hit, take an L, and turn around and turn it into a W by getting after it, right? The more often we show up, the more often we're going to fail. The more often we're going to fail, the more often we're going to lock in success. That's all there is to it. No one can expect to be on a team and never take any shots and then be a winner. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to take a bunch of shots, miss a bunch of shots, learn from what caused you to miss those shots, whether it's your competition or yourself. It's usually yourself is the biggest thing that gets in your way. Make some adjustments, shoot again until you start making some shots. So, yeah.
I think a lot of the value too, just to your point, a lot of your value as a person is the mistakes that you've made.
Oh, yeah,
is how
sure.
I look at it. You know, the value you have, the reason you, Brian Collins, you know not to do this, and why you can go and tell other sales leaders, hey, this is what I learned from sales, don't do this. The reason you know that is because you've probably done it and you've made that mistake, and now you know, okay, this is what we don't do. Video editing, the only reason I know lip sync, stuff like that, is because I used to be so terrible at it, but you learn and you figure out to do it. So like the value you have is all the stuff you've screwed up, because then you can help people be like, hey, I made this mistake, so don't do this, things like that.
Yeah, Declan was telling me the other day, I only touched the stove once, Dad. I did it once. I didn't do it again. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, you know, I know we're probably a little over in time. I just want to close out the show by talking a little bit. You know, these last couple weeks have been challenging for me personally, both personally and professionally. It's the first time in a long time where I've had to set aside my priorities. You know, my family, my creator, my family, my business, my friends. Those are my priorities, but sometimes I tend to go on auto mode and I put myself as my priority, or whatever I think is the most important thing to me right now. And that leads to frustration when those things don't go right. And those when I'm the most selfish is when I'm the worst person. It's when I find myself the most upset or angry about things, is when I can always boil it down to selfishness. But, you know, these last couple of weeks, you know, I've had to put everything aside and take care of my wife unlike I ever have before, because she just got hip replacement surgery. And, you know, we haven't recorded a show in a couple weeks. I haven't gone on business meetings in a couple weeks. I did do a couple remote things that got set up that we had to get done. So I did some work. But, you know, it was a struggle. The first couple days were tough because I'm not used to like serving above self. I've always said that I need to serve before myself, but this one I really had to. I had to turn phones off and communication off and just be there for my wife and for my family. And it was tough, and it led to a lot of frustration for the first couple days. But then after that, I kind of got into a groove. I realized that what was important needed to be done first. And then that first week ended up flying by. The second week went by really fast for me, probably not for my wife because she was in a lot of pain. But, you know, now that I'm back at it, I've had some time to reflect about, you know, people say you got to have balance. It's really hard to have balance. It really is. But one of the things I realized is you guys are still here after being gone for 2 weeks. Our team at the office is still here. They kept working. You know, we've done a good job of building a team and a reliable team. You know, there's still some things that myself or Manny or Joe, you know, being, you know, the owners of the business, still that we're relied upon for. But what I did learn is the business didn't die without me there, which is a good thing. And to some degree, some things still happen that will lead to business growth while I wasn't there. Maybe not as much as I'd like. I'd love to be able to leave for a month and see the business get bigger without me there. We're not quite there yet, but we will be. But just wanted to close the show talking about that and the importance of, you know, showing up even when you don't know what to do. I had no idea how to run the house as much as I thought I did for the last 2 weeks. I've learned a lot, but I've also learned I'm not very good at it, and I could probably do a lot more, even when Jen's 100% and, you know, running the show here. I could do a lot more based on my experience to help her out a lot better. So that being said, we're going to close out this episode. Thank you so much, Matt, Manish, Harshit. Thank you, Declan, for running the production. Can't wait to get this one out there, and we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning into the Business Line Podcast. Have a great day, everybody.